Okay, so welcome to the Node.js build team meeting for January 1st, January 25th, 2022. We wasn't sure if we had enough to discuss, but we ended up spending 20 minutes discussing stuff. So we decided to start the live stream. So here we are. I'm just going to find the agenda. And
we talked about HSTS for 20 minutes and
decided
on a path forward to notify the right people and then hopefully enable it.
That's right. So platform requirements for Node.js 18, 2815. I think, Richard, you're working on that. If you want to give us a quick update.
Yep. So that issues was opened last month, I think, or slightly before then. And so far, we have a reasonable picture of the platforms that we think Node 18 is going to go out on. So Node 18 is planned to last until, I think it's April 2025, I hope, off the top of my head. So our planning for platform requirements are looking at what platforms does it make sense to be building our binaries on that will still be, we still think will be in support at that point in time. And the main platform that's going to affect is going to be Linux, where at the moment we're building binaries on CentOS 7, but CentOS 7 will stop getting updates in 2024. So that's before the end of Node 18. So we are planning to move onwards. Some people watching the stream may or may not be aware of changes that have happened in the CentOS project. So CentOS 7 is the sort of the last, should we say, traditional sort of Linux distro release. So we're going to have to move to something else beyond that. The hope is we will probably try and move to RHEL 8. I am in the process of applying for a no-cost RHEL subscription so that we can put RHEL 8 on our CI machines. And we've had positive words of encouragement from elsewhere in Red Hat. So that is progressing. I have created an account that we can use to attach subscription entitlements to, and then hopefully once I have those, try and deploy them onto machines on the CI. So that is progressing. I believe on most of the architectures, we have at least one cloud provider where we can straight up deploy a RHEL 8 instance. There are other providers that we are currently using where that isn't possible, and I am going to look at whether we can sort of have our own VM image that we can deploy onto those cloud providers. So that's currently sort of where we are. But yeah, I'm looking at that now because obviously I'd like to get that done February, early March by the latest, giving us enough time that, before we actually start churning out Node 18 candidate beta, well, I don't know what you call them, sort of, builds ahead of cutting the PRs. So that's where we are. We know we're going to have to make some platform changes in terms of, machines that we're going to go out on, and that issue is tracking that. So it's progressing. And hopefully, I haven't seen anything yet that's going to hold us up, but we'll have to just keep on top of that and keep sort of plugging away at it.
I think it's also worth mentioning that the program we're applying to for the RHEL subscriptions is basically a generic program that's available. So any open source project can do this, and we're just leveraging that to be able to get the subscriptions we need for that. And I think the other thing is, yes, moving up to RHEL 8 will affect the minimum operating system levels for Linux that will be supported.
It will bump the level of glibc that the binary is not against. So I do need to double check. I think that will cut out things like, for example, Ubuntu 18 may be slightly behind, but Ubuntu 2004 should be fine. So
yeah, my sense it was even older version. Like you had to go back a fair amount on Ubuntu even for it to be a problem. But anyway,
well, yeah, I know it's the glibc version. So
yeah,
whatever glibc version is in relates. I did look it up, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I did look it up. But it's one of those things where they don't all line up. So the different versions of different operating systems, so different Linux distros have different versions of glibc, and they don't. It's not like these versions.
Yeah, no.
They sort of overlap at different.
Yeah.
Different.
But I think it was like it will be relatively older ones but people should be aware of, like 18 and beyond. If you're using a really old one, it won't run anymore.
Well, I think 18 is the minimum still in support Ubuntu version, because 16 is out of support. So if you're on 16, you should be moving. Yeah, I think 18 doesn't have it, but 20 should be fine. So I don't have too many concerns with that, but obviously if anyone watching the stream has concerns, keep watching that issue and sort of chime in so that we're aware of it. But we are really trying to look and see what makes sense given the sort of lifespan of Node 18. So what we don't want to do is take Node 18 out on something that, you know, a year or 2 years down the line, we're then got a conundrum, which is, oh, you know, we'd rather not move the base that we're building Node on. We'd like to keep the minimums as minimums and not have to bump them up in the middle of the release just because we made a bad choice at the beginning. So yeah, we may be a little bit aggressive in terms of some people may be cut off at the beginning, but the view is that we want something sensible throughout the lifetime of that release.
Okay, the next one is certificate expiry 18th January. We did change the certificates.
We did.
Is there anything left on that?
So we've had one report, and it's only been one report so far of not being able to download the headers when they're doing an npm install as part of the sort of binary build thing. But it's a bit weird because they're on like Monterey, which I think is like the latest Mac OS version. And obviously they are seeing that, but I would have expected to have a flood of similar reports. So at the moment, I don't know what's particularly causing the certificates to fail to validate on that system. But as far as I'm aware, everything else I've tried to, I've thrown at the website and downloads, that is validating the certificate paths. The new certificate we got is the one that's being served. So I think we're done. The remaining issue on that is to update documentation. So Michael and I went through all the servers and updated the certificates, but we also took notes as to what we actually did. So I've got an action to take the sort of notes we did, turn them into something a little bit more readable, and PR them into the build repo. So we did ask via sort of private email about whether anyone had any concerns, but there isn't really anything confidential in those notes. It's all sort of public, generic sort of how-tos. We use Nginx, and that's fairly standard. So I don't think there's any concerns over sort of leaking anything in instructions as to how to renew certificates. The only thing I'll mention is we do have a multi-year, I think they call them subscriptions, but the certificates are only issued for about 13 months at a time. So this time next year, we are going to need to reissue the certificate, but we won't need to renew it, which is a bit confusing. But yeah, we're basically, for I think it's 5 years we've got. So within that 5 years, we can renew that certificate as many times as we like, but each issue of the certificate is only valid for 13 months. So we are going to need to go around and update the certificates next year, but we won't have to order a new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so yes, it's not completely painless, but we will avoid the whole having to get Brian or someone else from the foundation to free up, expense the actual cost of the certificate. Someone did ask via Twitter why we weren't using Let's Encrypt or Cloudflare. I don't know if anyone has any.
I think the answer to that one was more work.
Possibly.
It would have taken us more work to set it up the first time. So
That may
we
be
just
something
haven't
to
done
consider
it.
within the next 5 years. I mean, we've got this certificate for 5 years now, so
Yep.
but yeah, that's all I had to say on that. So yeah, the remaining thing is to PR the instructors up and I guess keep an eye on whether anyone else is having issues.
Okay. The next one is the rename primary branch to main. Don't know if that's one of our few remaining repositories.
Yeah, we've got at least 2 repositories associated with build, which are not, I'd call them minor repositories, but they do have integrations to other things, but not, it's not drastically hard. It's reasonably self-contained, but it's finding the time to do it. The big one will be the build repository itself. And I don't think it's unmanageable, but again, it's one of those, I guess, hold your breath, flick the switch and hope we've caught all the bits that we need to catch.
I guess the build repository though, is there anything we think actually uses, like specifies the branch?
Yes. A whole bunch of Jenkins jobs pull down things like the select compiler and the version selector scripts. They're all pulled down over raw GitHub URLs. I suspect we could probably update those to use head rather than master, but it would involve probably, someone with access to Jenkins.
Yeah, okay, so they have
and find them. The redirect should work, but then I guess the issue with the redirect was the whole question about it's breakable if someone else pushes to master. But then the people that can push to master and build should be limited to
a
small number of people, so maybe it's not going to be an issue. It's one of those, if it breaks, it's going to be obvious. And it's just having that, I don't know what the word is, just taking that plunge and doing it.
So basically we need to go through the jobs and replace, I guess, like the ones where it does a clone, we're fine. It's just where it actually does a specific file.
I can't remember how we specify what branch to clone.
We don't. The one I looked at, some of them, it just basically says.
But I'm sure I've seen jobs where you've got a parameter for the reference to build, and it defaults to refs heads master. So certainly, I think maybe the stress
that would break any. I'm not talking about the node repo, but the build repo.
Oh yes, no, you're right. The build repo. No, you're probably right. It's probably just the things that curl.
Just the curl things, yeah.
Curl the scripts down without cloning the whole repo. And I think a few jobs may clone directly, but then they'll probably pick up the default branch rather than clone the branch.
Yeah, there are, the one I found where it's just cloning, it's just it doesn't specify the branch, so.
No, you're right. You're right. And I think even, I can't think of anything that would be cloning build without and specifying the master branch directly. They'd be cloning it and pulling down the default branch.
So so that one might be another case of if we think the redirects are going to handle it.
I would hope so.
Just rename it and then basically, and fix up as we go along. Every time we're updating a job or something, just change it to specify head or main.
Yeah, we should be able to find all the instances in the jobs because we have the scripts that are backing up the Jenkins config to the 2 config repos that are private.
Okay.
But anyone in build should be able to see. Is it anyone in build? I think it's anyone in build rather than anyone, or it might be anyone in the Jenkins groups. But definitely build people should be able to clone the repos and then do local greps through all the XML files.
That would be good.
So I could try and do that probably in the next couple of days. Won't be right.
Okay. That would be good. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah,
Okay, then,
yep.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, it's just stuff that's, we know we have to do. It's just not been. It's just finding the time or the
Yep.
confidence to think, okay, we can fix things if anything breaks.
Yeah, I think if we just looked at that that XML and don't see anything else, then that may be enough to say, okay, the redirect should handle it, and let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one is interest in establishing a build helper role. I don't think we've done anything on that front.
No, so Ash was doing that. Stuart and I have had some handover from him about how to sort of set up and run the AWX instance that we've got. So in theory, we know what to do with it, but we haven't really done anything more to it. So yeah, it's sort of on the back burner. It's there in the background, but not bubbled up beyond higher priority than anything else we're doing.
Sounds good. Okay, so memory issue on Fedora. I don't know that we've done anything there. I mean, you added swap and it's been okay since then, right?
I think the swap has helped with Fedora stuff. I know you moved like the debug stuff, so all of that probably won't affect the Fedora machines. Yeah, so yeah, the particular thing with the Fedora machines, I don't think has been an issue. I haven't seen anyone raise an issue since I added swap memory.
So should we just close that issue?
Possibly. So the only thing about the swap memory is I don't think I've Ansibled it. So if we were to re-Ansible a new Fedora machine, it wouldn't have swap enabled.
Okay.
But we could close that issue. I know. Yeah. There is that sort of. I prefer to try and Ansible things. It's just finding time to figure out how to do it. And then
I guess it would be good to avoid recreating them for some reason, then they all fall over. But so maybe we should leave the issue open, right?
Yeah, okay. We only have a few places that we can actually create Fedora instances. This is one of those, all the cloud providers we have offer different options for creating instances via the UI, and I think only maybe two of the providers had offered Fedora. And yeah, there's like I built a matrix of one of the issues about which operating systems the different providers provided, and they were all a slightly different set.
Right.
And yeah, with Fedora, I think at least one of the providers, I don't know about now, but at the time I reprovisioned the system. I think it was when I was bumping up the versions that we had, so that we have two versions of Fedora. So at the moment we've got Fedora 30 Fedora 32 and 34. And at some point we'll obviously have to drop Fedora 32 and move to 35 or 36 when that comes out. But yeah, the last time when I added the Fedora 32.4, I think that was when I tried to reprovision machines. And at least one provider that we had to do some manual stuff, otherwise it wasn't able to resolve external addresses, which broke a whole load of node workflows. But yeah,
did we add that to the manual instructions or something?
It's in the manual instructions, yes.
So I mean, maybe we could just add this to the manual instructions for now.
That might be easier. Yeah. Okay, let's do that.
Okay. So I'm going to say. Okay, so I'm just putting, we agreed to add manual instructions for now and then close this issue. Because I think as long as we've got that, and if there's other manual instructions you got to read anyway, then not a huge deal. Mm-hmm. And hopefully next time we're updating those scripts, we can then pull it into there.
Okay.
Unofficial builds and Snap were two, but again, it's the same thing.
Yeah, they're the same thing. So they're the other two repositories that Build own that are still using an unrenamed master branch. So
yeah,
unofficial builds. There are some scripts running on the server that is running the build loop for that repository. So that will need to be updated. And the snap, there are scripts that are mirroring things into an Ubuntu repository, and I think we need to. I think it's okay, but it's something I need to double check because there's an integration between the snap repository and then the stuff that gets pushed over to the repository that Canonical owns, that the snap from.
Right. Okay. So I'll say we don't have any progress this week to report. For the same thing of we've got to take a look and do some tweaks. Maybe those ones might be slightly easier, but
yeah. And to be fair, I don't think they're sort of high volume. They're not high traffic. If they break, I don't think it's going to be like disastrous in that if it was like a day or two to either fix up or revert.
right.
I don't think many people are going to notice. So for example, if the build loop fails on unofficial builds, if that's between releases, it's not going to matter because it's only if that build loop only activates if a new build is available. That's new official node build,
Right.
or someone actually pushes an update to the unofficial builds repository itself. So not many people are doing not many people are pushing to the unofficial build repository, and the releases are sort of well known and sort of planned out. So yeah, it's lower risk than the build repo.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe we just, again, like you said, we just have to find time to actually do those two. Okay. That takes us to the end of the agenda. Anything else we should talk about this week?
No, do we want to recap the HSTS discussion or just point people at the issue and ask them?
Yeah. Why don't we just point people to that issue, which is let's find the issue. Where are we? Issues. It's number 2857.
Yeah. So if we just drop that into the meeting notes, I get minutes, I guess, and people can chime in if they have any concerns or.
Yeah, we're figuring that by now it shouldn't be an issue. We're just checking with version managers and seeing if we can remember anything more about the context of why we didn't do it before. But unless we can come up with something, the plan will likely be to turn it on. Just taking notes there. Okay. And so anything else?
No, not from me.
Okay, well, I think it's just us two now, so I think that's good. Well, thanks for staying up so late, Richard. I know.
I'm here, but I'm here, but I can't turn on the video. It won't let me. But that's okay. Yeah, nothing else.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. No problems. No worries.
Yep. And yeah, okay. So we will talk to everybody later.